and you would hit them with the black light, would glow green, and they would stimulate the heart chakra, and then certain crystals would glow ultraviolet, which I believed were the interdimensional ones, activating outside of the human energy field and tuning to the higher chakras. So now it was teaching me more information. It was teaching me about correlations of energies through this ultraviolet light and about the interdimensional qualities that come through when you start working with this frequency of light. So we started finding, and then on top of that, it was the fact that they were named after the Merkaba as well. So now I found these unique form of crystals that were activated by the ultraviolet light, and then I get the confirmation that they were actually named after the Merkaba, which is the energetic light body that allows us to travel through these etherical realms too. So now there's all these correlations, not just coming through the frequency of light and the crystals, but now through its name and the synchronicities of its correlation to this energy field that's provided through all this metaphysical and esoteric knowledge. So now we have this correlation of the energies that our Merkaba, it's our ascension vehicle of light, and how we can now start to travel at the speed of thought through the fourth dimension. So what I believe is it starts to link us up and give us access to dream state as well. So maybe has anyone had any access to lucid dreams or the astral plane, or just having conscious awareness of your dreams? Does anyone have unique dreams? So that's like what I believe is the fourth dimension. And so having access and having activated your Merkaba will give you a more stable and more grounded sense of conscious awareness within the astral plane, because it's our ascension vehicle of light, and fully activated and linked up and connected to these two energy fields. It will give you access and stability and keep you stable within the dream state. So there's all these things that came through the Merkabite calcite and those crystals, and the correlation to the esoteric knowledge behind the light body. And the ultraviolet light is the rainbow bridge of perception. And I went to an ancient Egyptian mystery school activation that happened over in Oakland. Word of mouth, there was this unique individual who is here, flown in from Florida, named Ankh-Kufar. And he was named after the Egyptian Ankh. So he was a divine priest, consciousness reincarnated, who has come back through to share and teach. And so this ancient Egyptian mystery school activation was one of those synchronistic moments that kind of aligned again, because I go there and the teacher who was teaching was actually one of the people who I ran into in Mexico for the galactic alignment in Chichen Itza. So it was another teacher. I was hosting my workshop on crystals and ascension, and he was teaching the 64 breath technique of holonomic healing, which is a higher form of Reiki attunement. And so he was doing another activation in Mexico. I was doing this crystal activation in Mexico as well. So when I come to this Egyptian activation, this mystery school that was happening over in Oakland, and find out that this teacher was another individual I was directly connected to, we had more to share. And so I told him a quick briefing on my story of the wizard I met in Mount Shasta and a book that he gifted me. And before I could finish the sentence of the name of the book, he completed my sentence and said, "The Crystal Connection, Your Personal and Planetary Guide to Ascension." And he said he'd been studying this book for 12 years. And I was just like, whoa. And he said that it was so in-depth and so activating in what it had done for him that they had to do research into the author who wrote the book. And he was murdered 2 years after publishing this book. So this book was gifted to me in the most synchronistic way through a divinely guided trip to Mount Shasta, where a wizard had to pinpoint me and pull me out and say that he spoke to the spirit of Mount Shasta, the mountain, the energy of Telos, the mountain itself, and gifted me this book. And then within a month or two later, I'm at an Egyptian mystery school activation, and the guy explains that he'd been studying this book, and the guy who published the book was murdered. So it was just all these things started activating and confirming in all these beautiful ways. So the book is a magical book. I'd suggest everyone to maybe look into it, considering that the author did get murdered for publishing it. And his wife had to confirm that. You know, it wasn't something like he was murdered, but he drove off a cliff. You know, one of those things that you could kind of really cover up, you know. But his wife knew, and he'd been getting threats for years before he'd even published the book. So the research that they had done into him and found out from directly connecting with his wife was that through her beliefs was that he was murdered. And the book has so much information, and it talks about how to build onks, how to build these light beds, all these different things. The information is unbelievable. We'll see if we can just get into a few. So this is a tetrahedral pyramid that you can create with copper, and then you can create an octahedral pyramid hanging from that point. And it creates basically this. It's another way of linking up. And the guy who activated me and taught me about the Merkaba came through synchronicities at Burning Man, and I'll explain how that happened really fast, because it's unbelievable when these kind of things happen. I'm at Burning Man in front of our crystal art project, and I'm painting the third eye chakra. So there's 7 crystals that have already been created, and I'm in the middle of painting my crystal purple. And this guy walks up and he says that he recognizes my energy field. He says, you have 12 energy fields radiating from your star tetrahedral energy field. Have you been doing any work with the Merkaba? And I just laughed, because I had a treasure chest full of the crystals that I took Jen up there to find, right behind me in a treasure chest, because I'm gifting this Merkabite calcite to everyone, because I wanted to gift and share not only the information behind it, but the energy provided from having these things within your physical presence. It actually activates your Merkaba, just having them within your presence. So I had a treasure chest full of Merkabite calcite behind me when this random guy comes up and asks me if I'd been doing any work with the Merkaba, because he recognizes my 12-star tetrahedral energy field radiating from my auric field. So to have someone come up and say that, it was just basically, I double checked. I said, "What did you say?" And he says, "Yeah," he says, "you have a very powerful energy field radiating from you. Have you been doing any work with the Merkaba?" And I just looked at him and I was like, I have a treasure chest full of Merkabite calcite with me right here, and I'm basically sharing it with the collective consciousness out here. If anyone has interest in our art project, I was gifting these crystals to them. And he goes, "Yeah," he's like, "You're supposed to be at this activation happening at Friday at the Seed Dome. I'm activating the crystalline Merkaba through a deep meditation." And I look at the card, and it's just basically got the human body mapped out with the star tetrahedral energy field gridded out across the human body. And he says that I'm supposed to be there. And so I took that as one of those, synchronistic moments that, someone comes up and recognizes your energy field and confirms the work that you're doing. Because I had a lot of people questioning whether or not this Merkabite calcite I found was real. When you have something like that happen, you no longer have any doubts in your mind, and it becomes a core belief that has been activated through your own personal experiences. So through these personal experiences came the completion and the confirmation of some core beliefs of the work that I'm doing, and to keep following the path. So come Friday night, I show up at this activation at the Seed Dome at Burning Man, and when I show up, I actually brought a brain-sized piece of Merkabite calcite that the wizard had given me from Mount Shasta. So I had this massive piece of Merkabite calcite with me, and I show up, and the guy says, "We've been waiting for you," and he said that I was going to start the workshop. And I was basically supposed to explain the metaphysical properties of the Merkabite calcite, and then tell the synchronicities that had brought me up to the moment where I was at right in the present. So he basically had me do an activation on the whole place involving the metaphysical properties of the Merkabite calcite, and just sharing the synchronicities that had brought me to that moment, because the synchronicities involved the confirmation of him acknowledging my energy fields and all these things that came through it. So that's a quick synchronicity involving the wizard in Mount Shasta, the books, the Egyptian Mystery School activation, and the Merkaba, and how it had been acknowledged even by other presence out there on the playa. And Twisted Sage was the guy's name, so if you need to look him up later through the video, you can check him out, Twisted Sage, and the synchronicities with the Merkabite calcite and the Merkaba meditation that he took us through. And I'll just do a quick briefing on the meditation that he did take us through. And it was a visualization again, of once again calling in that sun tetrahedron and the earth tetrahedron, and you pull those two together, centering those in the sacred space of your heart, coming together, creating the star tetrahedral energy field radiating from the sacred space of your heart. And you visualized that crystallizing into 3 different Merkabas, and then you take the 2 on the outside in your visualization through meditation, you send them spinning at 1/9 the speed of light in the Fibonacci sequence outward. And what it does is it creates a spinning vortex that activates your Merkaba in the center to crystallize through that spinning vibration and the visualization of that 1/9 the speed of light in the Fibonacci sequence. So you do have to go through a meditation and this visualization, and we can all have access to that through your intuition too. So you will be intuitively guided to the right way to do this activation. play around with it. Some people say, oh, don't do it the wrong way, but no, we are all intuitive beings, and you have your own right way to meditate, and you will be intuitively guided to do those meditations regardless. So that's one of the synchronicities, and a quick breakdown of the meditation involving the Merkaba. Tucson, Arizona is where I was born, and there's a big, massive gem show that happens out there. And last year we went there, and on the way back, you know, Sedona, Arizona is a vortex as well, where a lot of powerful healers reside. And you talked a little bit about Nikola Tesla, and an individual came out as Nikola Tesla reincarnated, and his name is Patrick Flanagan, and he wrote the book Pyramid Power 1 and 2. So this is an interesting book to look into, and maybe even just do a little bit of research into Patrick Flanagan and his work, because he did just come out saying that he was Nikola Tesla reincarnated. And when we went out there and connected with him, it was a pretty powerful experience involving synchronicities again, but he did tell us a lot of stories of how and why he believes that he is the consciousness of Nikola Tesla reincarnated. And one of them was that he created a Tesla coil at the age of 12 and activated it within his neighborhood, and the government's pinpointed him and put him into special programming and tried to manipulate his mind all the way up to the ages, I think, of 18. But he has over 300 patents within his lifetime, and he just feels he's old enough now to come out with the real true facts that he believes that he is Nikola reincarnated. And basically, long story short, this magical individual, we got to gift and share crystals and magic, and he wrote, for me reciting my poetry, he wrote a $5,000 check. So that was him sharing abundance and pushing me forward to keep doing the work that I'm doing. But driving home from Tucson, Arizona with a check written from Patrick Flanagan by Phi Science for $5,000 for poetry or words that I had recited was a confirmation and another bit of synchronicity to follow the path and the passion that we're on, you know. Okay, so the third eye confirmation that comes through. Has anyone heard about the third eye and the pineal gland? Mm-hmm. Pineal gland. Okay. So if anyone, this is some of the most unique information that I got in relation to crystals in the third eye, comes through. In the pineal gland, there's two different forms of crystals they've found in here, and it's magnetite and calcite. And magnetite is supposed to be one of the most magnetic materials on the planet, and it would be found commonly in birds and almost all, I think, every animal's third eye, because it gives us access and guidance to magnetic north. And humans have it as well too. And through a lot of my teachings, I try and explain about the pineal gland and the confirmation of crystals and synchronicities that we have, and how we can access information through the sacred point. And a lot of people would still constantly question and, you know, and doubt that we have a sacred location. Science has proved this as well. I believe that we've basically done autopsies and dissected the human body, and science has gotten to the point where we can create a assistance device to pump the heart. So they've broken down, I believe that they've broken down how the pineal gland works in completion through science as well. I think that they've created these massive machines that can have a certain amount of fluid in it, and they can create an electromagnetic frequency, and they can actually see into the future by working with crystals, and just, it's basically a huge device that mimics the third eye, because that's what this point in the location of the human body does. But what I pulled in and merged through the metaphysical world and the scientific world was that they're using certain tourmaline crystals for satellite technology. And what they're doing with this technology is they're opening up wormholes in space-time for information to transfer instantaneously when you're working with the satellite. So they're using tourmalines to basically allow information to transfer instantaneously from one point to another, and so they don't lose time and information. And where we're going to merge that scientific knowledge that they're using tourmalines for within the satellites and merge that with the metaphysical world was when I found out that we have a magnetic connection to all crystals in the third eye. So with the intelligence that they're using and creating these wormholes with tourmalines, they're basically cutting tourmalines with laser precision. So these two tourmalines were connected as one crystal before. And so now when you cut them with laser precision, now you have two different crystals that are still connected through this crystalline grid of intelligence. So information can pass through as a frequency of light through one tourmaline, and it can instantaneously transfer the information to this other crystal no matter where it's at in space-time. That's why they're using it for satellite technology. So when we merge the scientific knowledge with the metaphysical knowledge of this direct connection that crystals all have to the pineal gland and the magnetic reception we have to the third eye, is we can go ahead and take one of these tourmalines and connect to the third eye. What it takes is, you know, a visualization of the linking up through the magnetic reception of the third eye. And if we get into the understanding that information is a wave frequency, so every thought that we have flows through the third eye as a frequency of information, just like that frequency of information would pass through the tourmaline inside the satellite and transfer information. So now if we can get anyone else to come up here and maybe, like, you want to link this to your third eye. So what I'm getting at here is that now I don't think we could start to communicate telepathically through this link up, you know, because now we have a direct connection to the microcrystals in the third eye, and every thought that we have is a wave vibration that travels through the pineal gland and crosses through the crystal. And so now, you know, I think it would take obviously practice and also us accepting this as a core belief, but we could start to use these as devices to communicate, because every thought that I have could be projected through this crystal into your crystal and then transferred through the magnetic reception to your third eye as well. So this is just a way to kind of confirm and play around with the possibilities of what we can do with this new information. So how does it feel when, like, Dob, you can actually, do you feel like connected?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what happens is it's actually working with the microcrystals of the magnetite. So, and I believe that the connection that's happening through any crystal that you put on your third eye right now, and when it starts to have a magnetic connection to the microcrystals in the pineal gland, is going to start an activation of some sort within the third eye. So it's the first form of activation and stimulation we can give the pineal gland to allow us to break free from whatever the calcification or the dormant state that it truly is in. So when doing this, it's going to start to activate the pineal gland through the magnetic reception, and I think it creates a magnetic connection that pulls enough of those microcrystals of magnetite forward in the third eye, and maybe can open up a new channel for information to start to come through. And so a lot of the weird, you know, unique knowledge that I've gotten, some of it just came through recently when I had access to these Aslan artifacts, because the artifacts and the guy that I got them from, who truly seemed like a modern day Indiana Jones, said that when the extraterrestrials that came down here and created the hybrid humans that we are, they created the human design. He said that they left out certain gaps and codons in the human brain, and that crystals were going to be the electromagnetic receptors that were going to complete those evolutionary codes of consciousness within our brain. So crystals were going to be the electromagnetic receptors that completed those cycles of those circuits that were left out in the human design. And they basically seeded crystals on the planet in certain pockets of intelligence, and they wanted human beings that they'd created and merged their genetics with to become intelligent enough beings to start to learn to work with the crystalline intelligence that they'd implanted into the planet. So there's all these different things. I mean, that's other stuff that came through later involving the extraterrestrials that supposedly created the hybrid humans that we are. But this is my theory on how we can use the third eye and crystals to communicate once we accept this, you know, into our core beliefs, because they're already using it for satellite technology. And once you understand that every thought that we have truly is a wave vibration, then that is information transferring and passing through the crystal itself too. So this is just
what crystal it is.
I truly we go to sleep at night. So it's the chemical that's released in the brain that allows us to have access to fourth dimension consciousness. And it's DMT is naturally released within the third eye, and it's can be derived out of like almost anything naturally too. So it's a natural psychedelic that gives us access to fourth dimension, or, you know, like an alternate state of consciousness. So DMT has been another stepping stone for me, and a lot of people might be a little intimidated by this medicine, but you can smoke DMT, and my experiences with it have been that there's a goddess, a presence of intelligence behind DMT that is basically creating a blueprint or a design for everything. You know, she's the spirit molecule behind DMT is it's a very intelligent being, and I can't even really explain DMT when I get into that topic, but it's definitely something that everyone should look into.
So does it grow? You said you smoke it, so where do you get it? Like
yeah, you
Walgreens?
can. No. It's derived from certain roots, and it's the same thing that when you take ayahuasca. If you get into, have you heard anything about ayahuasca? It's DMT is ayahuasca. It's just you can induce it through a smoke. You can't ingest it through any other form. DMT is derived into a little crystal that you could smoke, and it's actually it's a natural crystal, and it's really special, and it's alive too. Because I had a jar of DMT at my house, and I put it by the windowsill, and it grows in the sunlight. It'll continuously keep growing, and if you smoke a little bit in a pipe, it'll grow, the resin and the smoke from it will actually start to grow up the sides. So it's an intelligent living crystal, and when you actually smoke it, questions can be answered, and spirit will come down and she'll confirm things for you. And she's confirmed a lot of things for me too through this medicine. So it's a higher intelligence, and it's the Earth's intelligence coming through. It's just like the psilocybin or the mushroom network of intelligence, and I'm a big spokesperson for psilocybin and DMT and LSD. So if you can find the right connection for all that, this is a very powerful medicine for expansion of consciousness. Let's see what else I can just tap into real fast. So yeah, ask whatever you want.
You said magnetite and calcite?
Magnetite.
I'm sorry.
No,
that's a T.
Yeah.
Magnetite.
Here, let's give everyone a crystal. You guys can all come and grab one.
So I guess magnetite and calcite. I'm just clarifying two crystals.
And here, you guys can each take one, and you can stick one of these to your third eye and feel the connection.
Found in the pineal gland. So I guess this is my.
You can keep these two. These are
Now
just
what
like
is
little
what
1 second.
crystal is this?
This is the green tourmaline.
Okay.
And it's just it's a really the right shape to really connect with your third eye. So this is one I like to give to people so they can share with their friends. How
It's
this
not
all
connecting.
really? I can
Oh, there it
I
goes.
can link you up to. There's certain meridian lines that you can activate, and one of the activations that I would do when you activate a meridian line, it comes through like there'll be 2 different locations in the human body, and you can activate and connect that energetic vortex with simple taps. So a tap that would align and connect that energy vortex would be 1, 2, 1, 2, and then you sync up with 2 singular taps. So if I'm going to do an activation, or if someone can't get their actually a crystal to connect to the pineal gland, then I'll do a simple activation from the heart center up to the third eye, where I'll do 2 offset taps, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then 2 singular to sync it up. And after doing that once or twice, what you do is you create an energy vortex from the heart chakra meridian line up to the pineal gland, and it creates an energetic vortex that stimulates the third eye in itself, and it awakens it. And so in some way or another, I've done that a few times, and people have been gone from not having it connect to having it connect, and it's been a really beautiful awakening to see people have that, wow, what did you do? And it's like, well, so you can actually work with the way that the energies flow through the body. Okay, is there any other questions?
I don't really ask my question.
Yeah.
Oh, so magnetite and calcite, I believe you said, were 2 crystals found in the pineal gland.
Yeah.
Right? So our body is made of crystals.
Yeah, we are crystalline beings for sure.
Okay.
I mean, and this for me was one of the complete confirmations that allowed me to, to move forward with that too, because I was teaching it a lot and sharing that because I'd read or been guided to that information about the third eye and all this other information about it. But I've been trying to share this information, and a lot of people, would be like, well, I'm very analytical and I'm a science major and I need some sort of proof, And that's when this came through, and it's like those stepping stones of tiers of information seem to come at you at the right times to give you these confirmations. But now I bring these crystals with me to every workshop, and I make sure that everyone has this connection to the third eye so they can feel it themselves. You know what I mean? And you can actually start to feel the pressure being created, and there's something more powerful going on here,
And magnetite is like a magnet?
Magnetite is the most magnetic material on the planet, they say.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, imagine that, the most magnetic material in the planet in crystalline form inside the third eye. And something else we'll get into really fast, because this is another one of my theories and information that's come through. So when we go to sleep at night, we're about to go into our deepest state of REM and access that 4th dimension consciousness, have access to our dream state. So when we go to sleep at night, has anyone heard about the fluoride? in our toothpaste and in
Yeah,
our water,
water.
supposedly.
Yeah.
Well, fluoride was used in supposedly Nazi Germany in World War II to dull down humanity so he could take over. And they're using fluoride now because, and what we found in the metaphysical world, in the metaphysical community, is that the fluoride actually plays a role in severing the link that allows the cerebral spinal fluid to flush into the third eye. The cerebral spinal fluid, which links all 33 of the vertebrae and connects all the energy points to the human body throughout the whole energy system, supplies this information through these energy systems. Now they're using this fluoride within our toothpaste at night. When you go to sleep at night, they want you to brush your teeth with this fluoridated toothpaste. So imagine that you're having a heavy dose, direct oral dose of fluoride sneakily put into your system right before you go into your deepest state of REM sleep at night. So that's a pretty savage dose of something that could directly sever a link that's supposed to supply an energetic connection to source and to all of your energy flowing through your body, and it's supposed to flush that into the third eye each night and give you a connection through the pineal gland and to source. And so when you ingest the fluoride, it severs this link. It doesn't allow the cerebral spinal fluid to access and flow into the pineal gland. And what starts to happen if we don't have this activation of this fluid flushing into the third eye, and that's when we start to talk about the calcification that forms. And what happens is if it dries up inside the pineal gland, say the pineal gland's right here, and the reason, we'll get into why they even call it the third eye, because they actually found that there was inner retinas visualizing something inside the pineal gland. When we're talking about our retinas right here, these retinas reflect off everything in our third dimension reality. They take the photons of light and reflect off of everything, and those photons travel down the optic nerve, and those will stimulate the pineal gland itself. But those retinas that are inside the pineal gland don't have access to light. So they were wondering why they call it the third eye. And what are these retinas that are inside this thing visualizing? And what I've come to the understanding and through this information and guide to is that the understanding of what's going on here is when that fluid flushes into the pineal gland and activates and fills the pineal gland with the fluid, it starts to take those microcrystals of magnetite and calcite and spark them together in this fluid, in this beautiful, basically, stew of harmony. And those sparks that are created from this activation provided from this fluid and the crystals are what are being picked up, and these little sparks of intelligence are what allow us to actually access and link up into the fourth dimension. So if we don't have this fluid in there, we don't have these activations happening, these inner retinas are starting to dry up and form a calcification crystal over those retinas. Now we're just stuck in the third dimension, and we don't have access to those sparks that are happening, or this activation that's supposed to be happening, or any form of link up, because there's a calcite crystal that's blocking the retinas from creating. And that's why I think we do kind of wake up in a state of wonder, like, oh, that dream was really weird, instead of just having full access to that alternate state of consciousness where we could allow ourselves to have time become irrelevant and stop, and we could master anything we want within time, within a space-time, because we could be lucid within an alternate state of consciousness. So I think that's part of what's going on is the fluoride in our diet and the link up through the vertebrae and the cerebral spinal fluid. And the third eye, the confirmation was good through the crystals, give us another confirmation, okay? My trip to Mexico for the galactic alignment through Tulum was something I kind of already talked about. The satellite technology using termlines is another thing that I just wanted to share. We did an activation up in Mount Shasta. We talked a little bit about Mount Shasta, but it is truly an energetic vortex up there. And we were called upon, it wasn't just the time when I met the wizard in Mount Shasta. I got a call, I think a year and a half later, that this Peruvian shaman was on his way up to do an energy vortex activation, where now we're not just talking about the meridian lines of the human body going from heart to third eye. He was doing an energetic alignment, activating the meridian lines of the planet, going from the highest point in the Andes Mountains in Peru, and taking that energetic point and connecting that meridian line of the earth to the highest energetic point in Mount Shasta. So he was taking the highest energetic point in Northern California and connecting it with the highest energetic point in Peru, which was from the Andes Mountains where the shaman was from. So we ended up going up to Mount Shasta on a spur-of-the-moment phone call that he was coming up here, and we were supposed to be a part of this activation. So I'm hiking up Mount Shasta, 13 of us, as I'm carrying a little kid following this shaman to a vision that he had to align these energy points on the earth. And as we hike, I think it was 2.5 miles up, he comes to a point where he recognizes a grove that he had this vision of doing this activation at, and Mount Shasta's mountain is in the background, and he points to the ground where he saw that it was supposed to be activated, and I put my left foot down and arced a circle, and my left foot is what created the mandala that aligned the energy point from Northern California and connected the meridian line to the highest point in Peru, in the Andes Mountains. So we created this energetic alignment through intentions and through a mandala and a gift to Pachamama with intelligence and intentions of giving art and your intentions back, because there's no other way to really gift Pachamama unless it's through a form of gift of sound or art. So we created a huge mandala, and everyone set their intentions into this grid, and then we activated and aligned that energy. And then sure enough, when it gets really unique and the synchronicities hit is 2 years later, I just got back from Burning Man, and I get a call from my friend, and he says that he's going to Peru and he's buying me a ticket. And I was just like, okay. So whenever these kind of things happen, I'm low, I don't have any money about anything. He says he already bought me both my tickets. He's bought me one to Ecuador, then one to Peru, and left the return flight open. So we were going for supposedly about a month. So I was like, okay, I didn't have any money yet, but he was buying me the whole journey, and he said that when he got home, he was just going to take crystals in return for the expenses for the trip. So I knew I was supposed to go on this journey, and then sure enough, long story short, we're in Peru, and I'm in the heart of Cusco, and we're eating at like some mainstream spot, not anything like out of the norm, and this shaman comes walking in. And sure enough, I run into his brother while I'm in Cusco, Peru. And it's those kind of synchronicities that kind of push you to keep following what you're doing. So I blessed the whole table that he was at with crystals, and we all shared what we're doing there. And basically, I took a trip to Machu Picchu, and my vision when I heard that I was going to Peru was that I was supposed to go up to Machu Picchu and create my own personal mandalas and energy vortexes throughout Peru with these intentions, because I'd already been directly connected to this energy and connecting these points with intentions in Shasta. So my visions and intentions were to go to Machu Picchu and other energetic vortex points in Peru and set my intentions with all the crystals that I brought there as well. And the synchronicities were so good and beautiful and confirming that when I was in Machu Picchu, it was really tough because we took a hike up, and my intentions were so strong. We were collecting garbage the whole way, and we were calling them puntos de Pachamama because we were collecting garbage. And what we do when you're hiking in Mother Nature, if you see a piece of garbage, you collect it and you can call it an earth point, because I think that's a way that we gain a connection to the divine creator. She acknowledges the work that you're doing and you're picking up. It's just, I call them earth points. And so the whole way through Machu Picchu, we were collecting garbage and just showing Earth that we were giving back, for the beauty she was providing. And two locals noticed that I had 2 big garbage bags with me, and they asked me what I was doing, and I said, yo solamente busco para basura de plástico, because I was just going to be searching for the plastic garbage because everything else could biodegrade with time. So I was just picking up anything that looked like it wasn't going to biodegrade and was basically didn't look beautiful to the eye. And so they invited me to basically come hang out with them, and somehow through synchronicities, the locals that I met actually come to find out through the night. I gifted them some crystals, some very unique crystals. They're these petroleum anhydride diamond quartz that have a little pocket of glowing green petroleum inside. Do you guys kind of see that? The little glowing green pocket. Anyways, so we're in the jungle in the middle of the night, and I gifted them glowing green crystals, and we step off the side of the trail, and we happen to find a glowing green caterpillar. And so we're in the Amazon rainforest in the middle of the night, And we look down and there's a glowing green caterpillar right after I just gifted them glowing green crystals. And so the locals took it that I had magical powers. And like literally, we're like, you brought this glowing green caterpillar. We've been here 35 years, our whole life, and we've heard myths of this caterpillar, and we've never seen it hiking through the jungle our whole life. And I was like, just gifted them glowing green crystals, and we find the glowing green caterpillar. So they said that we were supposed to do a ceremony for the mountain at that moment. And I had my whole crystal case with me. I'm out here by the base of Machu Picchu, which is this little town, Aguas Caliente, and we're basically at this little river that runs through the Amazon up to Machu Picchu. And so we're sitting at the side of the river with this glowing green caterpillar, and we're like trying to document it and everything, because this was this next level. I mean, when you looked at this glowing green caterpillar, its head would glow bright red the whole time, and then its whole back would kind of activate in a little, like each rivet would activate with a little light of geometry until it would glow all green, and it would pulse for about a minute, and then it would kind of calm down and go away. And it pulsed about 15 times, you know, so we were trying to figure out how we could document this and all this stuff. And basically, we look at our clock, and the time was 11:11. So we knew something special was happening because the synchronicities of time were occurring. And so he says that we're supposed to do a ceremony for Putakusi, which was the nearest mountain to where we'd found this glowing green caterpillar. And I was like, okay, this is obviously why I'm here. I mean, I brought all of my crystals with these intentions to give back and do these activations. You know, I had already actually set a grid up at the peaks of Machu Picchu, but this was more important. This was way more synchronistic, because when I went up to the peaks of Machu Picchu and started playing my flute, all the guards came and they stopped me and told me I wasn't allowed to do a ceremony, and it's against the law to do ceremonies up on Machu Picchu. And it was really I was really offended, and I went and did it anyway. So I hiked off, and I hiked off into 3 different locations on each point, and I buried crystals, and I played flutes and did gifts to Pachamama through sound. And so on the way back was when the real magic happened, because I met these locals, and we found this glowing green caterpillar, and all these confirmations came through Pachamama and the energies of the mountains. So what happened was they basically said that we're supposed to do a ceremony because it was 11:11, and we got gifted the energy of the caterpillar, and so we were supposed to give back with intentions to the mountain. And I said, of course, and I asked him which crystal he thought we should bury, and he looked at me in my eyes and he said, no, which crystal is your favorite? And I said, oh, you're very wise, you know, because that meant that I had to literally let go of something that literally meant a lot to me, but I was giving it to something that's so important. So I went, you know, and I opened underneath the case, and underneath here is I had my custom Ganesha tusks that I carved, and these mean more to me than anything because it's my journey. Ganesha has been a powerful deity. It's my very first deity that was at the beginning of my awakening. My first energy portal that I created in my room had Ganesha energy radiating from it. So I started carving these Ganesha tusks, and Ganesha's always missing his right tusk, and so I've carved probably about 300 of these pieces, and my favorite one was in the bottom of the case, and I pulled it out and he just started smiling, and I was like, yeah, this is what I want to bury. And so sure enough, we start hiking up, and I mean, keep in mind we're in Machu Picchu. This is the Amazon rainforest in the middle of the night, and the mosquitoes there. When one mosquito bites you, this bug is like this. You don't even notice it. It's a little black fly. But when one bite gets you, you're itching for 2 weeks straight, and this thing like swells up. So I had probably 200 bites all over me because I didn't even notice them at first, you know. So, but at this point, I was like, okay, I'm in the middle of the jungle, in the middle of the night, I'm getting torn apart by these bugs, but nothing mattered. And anyways, buried one of my favorite Ganesha tusks underneath the mountain of Putakusi. When we hiked up, we looked at the time. Time was now 0000. So the second synchronicity it hit, time went to complete singularity on all zeros because they do army time there.
Oh, right.
And so we look up and he goes, this is where we're supposed to stop and do the burial. So we buried. Burials and ceremonies are very sacred there. You use cocoa leaves because the cocoa leaf is one of the things that you can gift back. So we each gifted 3 perfect cocoa leaves and the crystals that we'd chosen personally out of the case. Buried them, and by the time we done saying ceremonies, the time was 1, 2, 3, 4. So we hit 3 synchronicities in one ceremony during the burial of the gifting to Putakusi. And I buried a Ganesha tusk under the mountain. So that's just another, you know, stories of synchronicities. And then come to find out at the end of the night, Roel, the guy who I met, has rights to dig at Machu Picchu. You know, he releases this at the end of the night. He has already found 7 artifacts up at Machu Picchu, and he invited me back. He drew in my book. He has 300 to 1,000-year-old maps that take you to sacred Inca villages that you cross. There's the Inca line, which the Incas never even crossed, and there's indigenous tribes that you have to try and communicate through gifts. And he said he wants me to come back and go 12 days into the jungle. So reach out and connect with whoever you can and follow synchronicities. And I mean, I shared as much as I could. I think I kind of have to sum it up here. But if there's any other questions and fun stuff that we can tap into, I'm here to answer. Any other fun questions?
It's you.
Sorry. Well, I wanted, thank you so much. It's been a beautiful and wonderful workshop, as I knew it would be, because you always have so many great, so many great gems.
Sure.
And I was just wanted maybe to let people know a little bit more about StarGateKeys, how people can reach you after this, and maybe, I don't know, I know people can purchase from you today. Is that correct? Like,
Yeah, of course. I also want to share something really unique before this is all over. It's on the back of my business cards. This is something.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so check this out.
I just wanted people to.
So, you know, the big craze about diamonds and everything. Well, my craze about diamonds, I was like, what's the big deal about diamonds? Like, I kept wondering, you know, because I'm so into minerals, and of course, the big topic always comes up, diamonds and the amount of money behind it and everything. And you start to wonder. So I started doing my own research and wondering why diamonds? Like, what's the big deal? And of course, guess what it aligned with? Record keeper crystals. So on the back of all, on the natural etchings of all diamonds, you'll find record keepers. Triangles, naturally etched into all diamonds. So if this information, you know, in the metaphysical world about record keeper crystals being these microchips that hold this intelligent code of consciousness, and then all diamonds have them on them as well too. Now it shows that someone knew, and someone was here to capitalize on that and make it a very sought after, or you had to have a certain amount of money to have access to this kind of information. So I'll share these cards, you know, and this is a way you can share it with your friends, you know, like just the intelligence of the record keeper, you know, it's just really interesting.
Thank you.
So this is on the back of all, that's a digital microscope picture of a diamond.
Don't they
And the
destroy
records that are
all
on
this
them.
though when they?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do. They'll cut into it and
destroy when
they'll
they
ruin,
shape
and it's like the most heart-wrenching thing because that's where all the information is in the crystal.
But not a natural one.
No, natural ones they'll keep, and anyone who knows what's going on will keep your diamond natural.
Natural.
Yeah, and they'll even cut them and still leave the codes on them. You know, so that's another way to know you have a real, authentic diamond. And if it's been cut by someone who really knows what they're doing, they'll leave that code on the girdle of the diamond, even though it's cut. But they'll still leave the edges of that natural. If you get in there with the digital microscope, you'll see. But there's other things I really wanted to share, you know, because there's these certain opals that have hydrophane properties. Where this thing right now is it's opaque. You know, this is one that I cut that's opaque.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
Let's see if we can just share it with everyone. So this is like just an opaque opal. And you show it to her too. That's okay. And if you hold it right here, it goes red. And if you move it up, it goes orange. If you move it higher, it goes yellow. Then it goes green. So it actually correlates to where your energy systems are at. The opal refracts this color to your eyes and shows you where your energy systems are at in the human body. So that's when I got really intrigued because I was cutting opals and I started to notice that they actually share with us the chakra systems and where they correlate in relation to where a light would bend and give you that color. It's just, crystals keep sharing more and more, you know, and they confirm so much, and that's why I have so much passion for this, because the crystals will confirm what you're at, you know, the question.
What do you use to cut them?